Good afternoon and welcome to our June Keys penguin habitat. My name is Frankie and I'm an aviculturist here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. And right now I am finishing up my last feed for our Magellanic penguins. We have 23 birds on this habitat and right now we are going through our molt. Molting is when an animal sheds its fur or feathers or skin. Maybe reptiles and amphibians will molt that way. But these guys are birds, so they are molting their feathers, and they have about 75 feathers per square inch. And that's a lot of feathers, about a couple million feathers that they are replacing in a very short period of time. So you may see, if you were to come back in the next couple of weeks, or if you want to look to your right, there's a sign that has a picture of what a molting penguin looks like versus a non-molting penguin, and they look a little stressed out, kind of sickly, and definitely weird. They are in the process of pushing out all of those feathers to then replace each and every one of those feathers with a brand new feather. All birds will molt their feathers, just not all of them will do it all at the same exact time. Most birds will do 1 or 2 feathers all throughout the year, but these ones have a very specific life cycle where they will need those feathers to be nice and waterproof for their migration season. In the months of November through, let's say, February, these guys are migrating about 2,500 miles every single year. And in the southern hemisphere where they're naturally found, it's flip-flopped. It's our summertime that they're molting in their wintertime. They're migrating in their wintertime. And they are naturally from Chile and Argentina. So it's really important that they spend a lot of time, about 5 to 6 weeks, once they get their new feathers in, preening and placing all of their feathers perfectly with a nice coat of waterproofing or oil that they use their beaks to spread all throughout their bodies. I don't think anyone is preening right now, but basically they'll dip the edge of their beak into their uropygial gland or their preen gland or their oil gland. It's all the same. And that's at the back, on their backside at the very end of their tail. There's a little place where they'll dip their beak and they'll use their beak and glide it through all of their feathers to make sure that they are nice and perfectly waterproofed and positioned for that next season. And that'll last about a year until their next molting season. They molt every end of July, August, and September. We've already had 3 birds molt. Those are our younger birds, and they look like they have a fresher coat of feathers on them, and that's Wally, Dee, and Cleo. All of 3 of them are in the water right now. So if you see a bird that's more black and white than the others, odds are that's one of our youngins. And the rest of the birds are bulking up so that they can molt soon. And when they molt, we have a lot of feathers here on our deck. So thankfully we have a nice little period of no feathers on the deck, but that means that a lot of the birds are going to be molting at the same time. In our habitat, we do have 4 Brazilian rescues, Roxy, Robbie, Kate, and Avery. And they were rescued about 8 years ago from Rio de Janeiro, where they were found thousands of miles too far north from their natural habitat. This small group of about 30 birds were probably following a school of fish that led them to be stranded a little bit too far north for them. And about 16 of those birds were deemed non-releasable, and we were able to take in 4 of them. So we have Roxy on the deck up here, and Robbie, Kate, and Avery are all in the water. So then the rest of the birds, some of them came from other facilities, but 13 of our birds did hatch here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. I was trying to feed Shim. He just came up to me, but he decided he's not hungry at the moment. A lot of our birds have their own individual way of eating. Some of them will just take the fish however you hand it to them. But Robbie, for example, needs to have his feet in the water to eat whatever. She needs the fish to be tossed to her in the exact angle that she requires. Paddles over here likes to kind of attack her fish. So it really just depends. You get to know each and every one of them. If you're interested in figuring out which bird is which, we do have a board on the side of the exhibit on both sides where you'll see a color coded for each bird and their band colors. For example, Roxy's right here. She's white, white, orange. So when you look up at that board, you'll see Roxy's name. And there are a few birds without a band on, and that's because they're going to be molting soon, and we don't want to stress them out and add extra restrictions to their flippers, so we do take them off during the season. But if you decide that you want to figure out which bird you've connected with, feel free to look at those signs on either side of the exhibit where you can figure out which bird is which. Like I said, we do have 23 birds here, so there are plenty of different personalities for you to connect with. If any of you noticed that Roxy had a slight limp, it's because she has bumblefoot. Bumblefoot is a very serious issue that can develop in all types of birds. And basically it's like equivalent to a bed sore. A bed sore for someone who may be bedridden over time. She came to us with bumblefoot, and it's been a case that we've been managing since she was brought to us from the wild. And a lot of times we just allow her to have a mat next to her burrow, which she's on right now. And it just adds some extra comfort for her feet. And then if a couple times a year a veterinarian will take a closer look at that just to make sure that it's not getting worse or if it's getting better. So it looks like this feed is finished. I'm going to give them about 1 more minute to decide if they're hungry. Usually someone comes up. Hey. All right, I'm going to call this feed done. Well, complete, and so I'm going to go ahead and take the food off the deck, and then I'll be right back out to put some mats on our beach. We do leave mats on our beach overnight because we are entering this season where it's a little bit more sensitive, where they're all bulking up and not in the water as much. We want to make sure they have just extra protection for their feet. So that is why I'll be putting those mats out. And if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to ask anyone in a blue polo. And if you see me while I'm headed out, come up to me and ask me any questions. Thanks so much for coming out, and have a wonderful day.